Hi everyone, I'm Morg and I make minis in HeroForge. Today's mini that we are looking at is called Gerael, my Spectral assassin. We're gonna be talking about the backstory of this character, inspiration behind this character, and we're also gonna be talking about the biggest challenges, and hopefully you'll learn something new for HeroForge. In my head, I have like the story idea for a book that I'm not planning to write, to be honest, because in many ways writing for me is maddening, but the characters that I'm like thinking about, they live rent-free in my head. So this is actually one of those characters that are here, and this character is supposed to represent the absolute worst of what can happen with the magic in my universe. I kind of imagine magic being like extremely dangerous. You might very easily become dead. And dangerous magic is a trope that I really like. Kind of like gives really solid justification why witch hunts happen and so on. So it's just like a very natural conflict kind of thing. I was trying to make a sort of an undead creature. It's not exactly undead, you know. In my childhood, I grew up on Warcraft 3, and Warcraft 3 has some of the most amazing undead characters that I know. Arthas, Sylvanas, Gelfuzad, Anubarak. I would say undead are some of my favorite monsters because they're just fun. I suppose I find tragedy and misery fun, so I guess that's what's fun for me. Before he became this sort of an undead creature, he was an assassin. That's kind of like how he got himself into this predicament in the first place. And this character is supposed to be tragic. He is supposed to be somebody who was trying to do a heroic sort of a thing, but it like backfired terribly, and now he's like cursed until he's cursed forever because he cannot even die, and this magic is just trying to consume him at all times. So he's not supposed to be a villain. He's supposed to be more of a like antagonist, kind of. Not exactly good, but not exactly completely bad. Just wants to die. That's kind of like the idea, let's say. I also imagine with my kind of magic that it looks very sort of like liquidy, you know. I suppose I suppose you could say Hollow Knight does something incredibly similar with the Void, but dark magic can also like crystallize and manifest as crystals, which I kind of wanted to also show in like the model here. Also, I wanted to kind of show it in here, you know, and in like, let's say, the crystallized heart. So in this scene specifically, I just kind of like ended up with sort of an idea where Gerael is trying to escape the abyss, let's say, or whatever this liquid is, or wherever it is. Now, let's take a look at some of the earlier versions of Spectral Assassin. Let's say this was the starting idea for the character. I knew when I was like making it, I had like in my mind this sort of a like flying out pose, and I just kind of like imagined this character like getting propelled up into the air by maybe some sort of either smoke or like the dark magic, you know. And this is kind of like where I started. I really liked also like the new faces that you can get from the Daggerheart DLC for HeroForge, and yeah, this face is really great because like when you combine it with like other thingies, you can like easily make some sort of a messed up face, and I think this is also just like one of the best ways to create undead characters in HeroForge. So I really like what the HeroForge team did with the Fungrel. This was, let's say, my second attempt, and I was really happy with how this like position turned out, and this was like something I stuck with. It wasn't difficult to put like all these parts together, it's actually quite simple. If there was anything that I needed to hide, it was like this stuff here, like poking out, which gets like fixed later with scarves. Here is what it kind of looks like when you don't have those scarves, and these are kind of like the scarves that I stacked on top of each other. I started with like the regular face with this character so far, because he used to be human in the past, so I wanted to make him like first and foremost human before I like turned him into an undead. Now here is where I had like my very first iteration of the face. I kind of had like a tutorial about this already. If you like combine certain faces, like the damage features here, you can make some really incredible faces. I also really like starting with any of the like starting colors that HeroForge offers. Any of these that kind of like fit for the idea. I know Derf, who is like a HeroForge content creator, absolutely despise these colors because they're absolutely horrendous, which I agree with, but like my sort of a process is that I just kind of like color pick a color, you know, and then I adjust it to whatever it needs to be. If I'm like doing it this way, I can just like copy a color, then use it here, you know, or if I want to like change like a bunch of colors, I can just use this, and I find it kind of like convenient, right? So this is where I did the coloring of the hands and the face. Here I was like starting to do a little bit of like shades of blue. I think it's kind of difficult to work with like pure black, and I think I kind of like enjoy more if there's like also some sort of a color to the black, and I thought like this sort of a ugly blue or ugly teal look quite nice. Here is where I finished making the face coloration. In this case, you can see that he looks quite tragic, you know, as an undead. But later on, I kind of changed the face to be like more like angry, or like let's say defiant. You know, I was also really happy with like how the black turned out. You can see here, for example, some of those like black and blue coloring. You can still see that like the bottom part of the mini is still not done. I wanted to give like a proper support for this mini so that if it ever gets like 3D printed, it can stand no problem. It can exist in 3D space, you know? One of the ideas that I got, I was thinking that maybe I could use like backtails to create a sort of an illusion if I like paint these in like a very sort of a dark, smoky way. I can show you here, for example, what I was kind of like trying to do, and I don't think it looked as good. I didn't really like it because it was also just covering a lot of like details that I put into the mini with like the decals and stuff. You can see that I was also just trying it here, but I didn't like it. Beyond that, I also had like this sort of an idea to put some sort of a color that can resemble a ghost. This is a color that is using transparent plastic. Looks otherwise like this, you know? And this transparent plastic is like really great at trying to make like some sort of ghastly character. I had a hard time imagining how I'm gonna like combine this with whatever is gonna be happening at the bottom of the mini, you know? This is almost the point where I was kind of finished with what the assassin is supposed to look like, except I changed the thief in the future as well. You can see that he looks a little bit more pissed off. I thought it was kind of appropriate. I also kind of gave him like a sort of a crystal heart. You can see here that it's just like kit bashed. I believe this is like a back piece of crystals and I stuck it in. I also added like some of these, and these are like spell effects which are partially colored with the smoke like color, and I added them here, you can see, and here, right? You can also see here those scarves that I talked about. And I also changed the boots. Since I was like using these crystallic hands. I thought I could also use the crystallic boots. This is the point of the mini where I decided to change up the teeth. Wanted to show the struggle, you know, the pain, the anger, frustration. And bottom part of the mini, it just took me like 3 days to come up with some sort of a good idea to make this mini work. And you can see here that I was trying to do those smokes that I was talking about. And among those, I also kind of decided to put in like the fiery hands. And maybe I just kind of imagined that, you know, the reason why he's like so pissed off and the reason why he's just kind of like trying to fly up into the air is because he's getting chased by the magic that he is powered by, you know? The magic is just kind of like trying to make him part of it again, you know? This was, let's say, the first idea of that. You can see here, you know, hand trying to reach out, another hand trying to reach out. And yeah, like the purpose of these hands is also just to make the mini more balanced so it like it doesn't break. So this also kind of looked cool that there was like this sort of a skull mouth, you know. You can also see here this thing right here that you're looking at is a lettuce which is like colored. This was just kind of like the idea that I was gonna go with, just to have like one skull that is like going out of the liquid. I figured like less kind of meant more, and it's like trying to consume him. And I wanted to have like these two arms which are like trying to grab him and like pull him down, you know. But you know, those hands are just going to like go right through him as his body becomes incorporeal. And again, you can see here that I kind of like played with the colors. I didn't want it to be like purely black. I wanted the details to be seen. I wanted you to see the skull properly. I wanted you to see the teeth of the skull. I wanted the magic to feel mesmerizing to look at. And in the end, I did also decide to put in that sort of a smoke effect that is propelling up the Spectral assassin as he's trying to escape the abyss. I also added these line nippers because I thought they look kind of cool, so. And this finally brings us to the main iteration of the mini. I'm really proud how it turned out. I really love this mini. This is one of my favorites. For the portrait, I actually use one of the presets. This one is very nice. It's like with the moon. And that's honestly it for the mini. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like, comment, whatever you wish. And I hope 2026 will go hopefully smoothly. Make sure not to look at the news for sure. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm really excited for the other minis that are coming, so I hope you will love them. Alright, thank you so much, take care, and bye bye.